A wealthy millionaire takes a walk through the park and stumbles upon a heartbreaking sight. A young black girl sitting alone with two crying babies. What happens next will completely shatter your expectations. Is it kindness, a twist of fate, or something more? Watch the full story to find out how one act can change lives forever. It was a regular Thursday afternoon when James Carter, a 45-year-old millionaire, decided to take a walk through Riverside Park. He had made his fortune in tech, building a company that sold for billions. And now he spent most of his days managing investments or avoiding the press. That day he wasn't looking for anything special, just some fresh air. But then he saw her, a young black woman, maybe in her early 20s, sitting on a bench with two small babies. One was crying loudly, the other was kicking its legs in a stroller. She looked exhausted, her eyes red, her hands trembling as she tried to calm them down. James slowed his pace. He wasn't the type to stop for strangers, but something about her caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she kept whispering to the crying baby, her voice cracking like she was holding back tears. Or maybe it was the fact that she was alone, no one around to help. He walked over, his polished shoes clicking on the pavement, and cleared his throat. "Hey," he said, keeping his tone casual, "you okay over here?" She looked up, startled. Her name was Aisha, though he didn't know that yet. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her clothes were worn, a faded jacket and jeans with a rip at the knee. She stared at him for a second, sizing him up, then snapped, "Tissa to you. I don't need some rich guy staring at me like I'm a zoo animal." James blinked, caught off guard. He wasn't used to people talking to him like that. Most folks kissed up to him because of his money. "I'm not staring," he shot back. "I just heard the kid crying from halfway across the park. Sounds like a war zone over here." Aisha rolled her eyes, bouncing the crying baby on her knee. "Yeah, well, welcome to my life. You got a problem with it? Keep walking." He didn't move. Instead, he shoved his hands in his pockets and said, "Look, I'm not trying to mess with you. I just figured maybe you could use a hand. You got two kids here, and you look like you haven't slept in a week." She glared at him, her voice sharp. "Oh, so you're the hero now? Some white guy in a fancy coat swooping in to save the poor black girl? I don't need your pity." James bristled. "Pity? Lady, I don't even know you. I'm just saying it looks rough. What's wrong with offering help?" Aisha snorted, shifting the baby to her other arm. "Help? You don't know nothing about me or these kids. You think you can just throw money at this and make it better? That's what people like you do, right? Flash a check and feel good about yourself." He clenched his jaw, feeling the heat rise in his chest. "You don't know me either," he fired back. "I'm not here to play savior. I just saw you struggling and thought I'd ask. You want to bite my head off for it? Fine. But don't act like you've got me all figured out." The baby kept wailing, and the other one started fussing in the stroller. Aisha groaned, rubbing her forehead. "Great, now they're both going. Thanks a lot, man." James raised an eyebrow. "What, that's my fault now? You're the one yelling?" She shot him a look that could have burned a hole through steel. "You're still here, aren't you? If you're so worried, do something useful instead of standing there judging me." He hesitated, then said, "Fine. What do they need? Food? Diapers? Tell me and I'll get it." Aisha laughed bitterly. "Oh, you serious? You think I'm going to trust some random guy with my kid's stuff? What's next? You're going to ask for my address so you can send me a bill?" James threw up his hands. "You're impossible, you know that? I'm trying to be nice, and you're acting like I'm the devil." "Maybe you are," she snapped. "People like you don't just walk up and help for no reason. What's your angle?" He stared at her, incredulous. "My angle? I don't have an angle. I've got more money than I know what to do with. And I saw you here with two screaming kids. That's it. No conspiracy." Aisha didn't say anything for a moment. She rocked the crying baby, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. Finally, she muttered, "They're hungry. I ran out of formula this morning, and I don't get paid till tomorrow." James nodded, keeping his voice steady. "Okay, formula. What kind do they take?" She told him the brand, her tone reluctant, like she still didn't trust him. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant, Mark, right there in front of her. "Hey, Mark, I need you to run to the store, get me 2 cans of," he repeated the brand Aisha had said, "and bring them to Riverside Park West Side by the benches. Now." Aisha watched him, her expression shifting from suspicion to something else. Maybe confusion, maybe curiosity. "You really doing this?" she asked when he hung up. Yeah, he said, crossing his arms, unless you're going to tell me to stop. She didn't. Instead, she said, you're weird, you know that? Most people would have walked away by now. He shrugged. I'm not most people. 20 minutes later, Mark showed up with a bag from the store. He was a skinny guy in his 30s, dressed in a suit that didn't quite fit right. He handed the bag to James, glanced at Aisha and the babies, and said, here you go, boss. Anything else? Nah, that's it. James replied, thanks, Mark. Mark nodded and left, leaving James to hand the bag to Aisha. She took it, peering inside at the cans of formula. This is the right stuff, she said, almost to herself. Then she looked up at him. Why'd you do this? James met her gaze. Because I could, that's all. Aisha didn't thank him, not outright. Instead, she said, you're still not off the hook. I don't owe you nothing for this. Didn't say you did, he replied. You need anything else, or am I free to go? She hesitated, then muttered, they need diapers too, size 3. He smirked. See, was that so hard? He called Mark again, gave the order, and within another half hour, a pack of diapers was in her hands. By now, the babies had quieted down a little. Aisha was mixing formula in a bottle, her movements quick and practiced. James watched her for a second, then said, yo, what's your name anyway? She didn't look up. Aisha. These are my boys, Jamal and Malik. Nice names, he said. I'm James. She nodded, still focused on the bottle. Yeah, well, thanks, James, I guess. He chuckled. You guess? That's the best I'm getting? Don't push it, she warned. But there was a tiny crack in her voice, like maybe she didn't hate him as much as she'd let on. Over the next few days, James found himself going back to the park. He didn't plan it, not really. But he'd see Aisha there with Jamal and Malik, and they'd talk. Or argue. Mostly argue. You back again? She said one afternoon, spotting him walking toward her. What, you got nothing better to do with your millions? Maybe I like the company he shot back. You ever think of that? She scoffed. Yeah, right. 2 babies and a broke single mom. Real glamorous. He sat on the bench across from her. You're not broke. You said you've got a job. Barely, she muttered. I work at a gas station. Minimum wage, crap hours, hardly enough to keep us going. James frowned. That's it? No family helping out? Aisha's face tightened. My mom's gone, dad's in jail, and the boy's father, don't even get me started. He's out of the picture. It's just me. He didn't push her on that. Instead, he said, you're doing a lot for just you. She shrugged, but her voice was hard. Don't have a choice. They kept meeting like that day after day. Sometimes he'd bring coffee for her or snacks for the boys. She'd grumble about it, but she'd take them. One time she snapped, you're not my sugar daddy, you know, stop acting like it. He laughed. Sugar daddy, please, I'm just trying to keep those kids from screaming my ears off. Yeah, well, you're doing too much, she said. People are going to talk. Let them talk, he replied. I don't care. But Aisha did. She started noticing the looks from other people in the park. Older women whispering, guys shaking their heads. One day, a man walked by and muttered loud enough for her to hear, guess she found herself a rich one. Aisha's head whipped around. What you say? She shouted, standing up. Say it to my face. The guy smirked but kept walking. James grabbed her arm. Hey, let it go. He's not worth it. She yanked away. Don't touch me. You think this is funny? People think I'm some gold digger now because of you. I didn't ask him to think that, he said, his voice rising. I'm just here, Aisha. That's it. Well, maybe you shouldn't be, she yelled. You're making this worse. He stepped back, hands up. Fine, you want me gone? I'm gone. He turned and walked off, leaving her there fuming. But the next day, he was back. She saw him coming and groaned. You don't listen, do you? No, he said, sitting down. You're stuck with me. She glared at him, but she didn't tell him to leave. Weeks turned into months. James started doing more than just showing up with formula and diapers. He paid off Aisha's overdue rent one day, no warning, just had Mark drop off the receipt. She called him furious. You paid my rent, she screamed into the phone. Who told you to do that? You were going to get evicted, he said calmly. I heard you talking about it. That's my business, she shouted, not yours. You can't just throw money at my life like that. Why not, he fired back. You're drowning, Aisha. I've got the cash. What's the big deal? The big deal is I'm not your charity case. She snapped. I don't want your handouts. It's not a handout, he said. It's help. Take it or don't, but I'm not watching you crash. She hung up on him. But she didn't send the money back. Then came the day he crossed the line she couldn't ignore. He showed up at the park with a lawyer and a stack of papers. Aisha stared at him confused. What's this? James took a deep breath. I want to set up a trust fund for Jamal and Malik. College, whatever they need. It's done. Just needs your signature. Her jaw dropped. You're kidding me. Nope, he said. I'm serious. She stood up, shaking. You don't get to decide that. These are my kids, James, mine. You don't own us. I'm not trying to own you, he yelled, finally losing his cool. I'm trying to give them a shot. You're killing yourself to keep them fed, and I can fix that. Why won't you let me? Because it's not your place, she screamed. You're not their dad. You're not my husband. You're just some guy who won't leave me alone. He stared at her, breathing hard. Maybe I care, Aisha. Ever think of that? She froze, her eyes wide. What? I care, he said quieter. About you, about them. I'm not going anywhere. She didn't know what to say. She just sat back down, papers in her lap, and stared at the ground. The next day she signed them. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. She called him after. This doesn't mean I'm okay with it, she said. I'm still mad. I know, he replied. I can handle that. Things changed after that. James started coming around her apartment, not just the park. He played with the boys, fixed things she couldn't afford to replace. Aisha fought it at first, but she softened over time. One night she said, "You're not as bad as I thought." He grinned. High praise. Don't get cocky, she warned, but she smiled too. Then came the bombshell. James got a call from his PRT one morning. Aisha's story had leaked. Someone had seen them together, pieced it together, and sold it to the tabloids. Headlines screamed, "Tech mogul adopts struggling mom and kids." The internet exploded. Some called him a saint, others a creep. Aisha's phone started blowing up too. Old friends, distant cousins, all asking for money or calling her names. She stormed over to his office that day, babies in tow. "This is your fault," she yelled, shoving past his receptionist. "You and your stupid money." James stood up from his desk. "I didn't do this, Aisha. Someone talked." "Yeah, and who else knew?" she shouted. "You got people following you everywhere. Now my life's a circus." "I'll fix it," he said. "I'll sue him. Shut it down." "You can't fix this," she cut in. "My name's out there. People think I'm your little project, or worse." He stepped closer. "I don't care what they think. I care what you think." She glared at him, tears in her eyes. "I think you ruined everything." She left, slamming the door. For a week, she didn't answer his calls. He showed up at her place anyway, pounding on the door. "Aisha, open up. We need to talk." "Go away," she yelled from inside. "No," he shouted. "I'm not leaving till you hear me out." She yanked the door open, furious. What do you want now?" "I want you to stop pushing me away," he said. "I'm in this, Aisha, all the way. You, the boys, everything." She stared at him, shaking. "Why? Why me?" "Because you're real," he said. "You don't kiss my ass. You don't care about my money. You're the only one who's ever called me out. I need that." She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she stepped aside. "Get in here before the neighbors start recording." He walked in and they talked, really talked for hours. She told him about her mom's death, her dad's crimes, the ex who'd left her with 2 kids and nothing else. He told her about his empty mansion, his failed marriage, the loneliness that came with all that cash. By the end, she was crying and he was holding her hand. "I'm still mad," she said, wiping her face. "I know," he replied. "I can wait." And he did. Over the next year, James didn't just throw money at her problems. He stuck around. He hired lawyers to kill the tabloid stories, got her a better job through a friend, even took the boys to daycare when she couldn't. Aisha fought him every step, but she stopped pushing him away. One day, out of nowhere, he said, "Marry me." She choked on her coffee. "What?" "You heard me," he said, dead serious. "Marry me." She stared at him. "You're crazy." "Maybe," he said, "but I love you and them." She didn't say yes right away. It took her 3 months to decide. When she did, she called him. "Fine, but no big wedding. And you're not buying me some giant ring." He laughed. "Deal?" They got married at City Hall, just them and the boys. The tabloids went nuts again, but this time, Aisha didn't care. She had Jamal and Malik in a good school, a house James insisted on buying, and a man who'd gone from stranger to family. He wasn't perfect. He still pissed her off daily, but he was hers. And that's what shocked everyone the most. Not the money, not the trust fund, not the headlines. It was the fact that James Carter, the untouchable millionaire, found Aisha and her boys in a park and didn't just change their lives, he changed his own.